favorite side dish for Thanksgiving. Asking friends and family to bring a dish not only makes less work for the hostess, but also celebrates different family traditions. This recipe for a mixed grain pilaf is a nutritious alternative to stuffing. And best of all, it's one pot dish that can be prepared ahead of time. And it's really a combination of two kinds of mushrooms, the cremini mushrooms, which are those nice brown mushrooms, and white button mushrooms. And I'm just slicing the caps of the mushrooms quite thinly, about 1/8 of an inch. And in a heavy saute pan, you can melt 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I've already added the olive oil to the pan, and I'll add the butter. And we're going to saute 1 large white onion that's been finely minced. While the onions are sauteing, I'm going to mince 2 cloves of garlic. A pilaf, like the one we're making today, is a rice-based dish. And this one makes a very nice alternative to stuffing. Now, I'm going to add the mushrooms. 4 cups of sliced cremini mushrooms, 4 cups of sliced white button mushrooms. Let the mushrooms saute for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to add the rinsed wild rice. Wild rice isn't really a rice at all. It's actually the seed of a long-grained marsh grass. I'll add 1 cup wild rice to the mixture, 2 cups of pearl barley. And most of the barley sold today is pearled, meaning that some of the nutrient-rich husk has been removed and the grain has been steamed and polished. 1 cup of soft wheat berries. Wheat berries are whole, unprocessed wheat kernels. 1/2 cup of millet. Millet is a cereal grass and comes in many varieties, most of which are rich in protein, B vitamins, and essential minerals like iron and phosphorus. So now all these grains, including the mushrooms, must be stirred and cooked for about 15 minutes. Add 6 cups of heated homemade chicken stock. Don't forget to add 3 tablespoons of a good imported Marsala wine. Once it comes to a boil, just add a little salt to taste. Oh, at least a teaspoon. Now put this right into your 350-degree oven and bake for about 30 to 40 minutes. So this has been in about 30 minutes. Let's check it. Look, it gets all puffy. The grains have cooked. The liquid's absorbed, and you can just fluff it up. And now, if you're going to serve it immediately, you would add 1/4 cup of fresh herbs, such as flat-leaf parsley, oregano, chives, thyme, all chopped up. Now, if you were preparing this in advance, don't fold in the herbs until the pilaf has been reheated. But if you're going to transport this, take it covered, and then half an hour before you want to serve it, you can just put this in a serving dish and cover it with parchment paper, maybe add just a little bit more chicken stock to moisten it, and heat it in a 350-degree oven. So good. Now's the time to season it with a little bit more salt, touch of pepper, stir it up, and put it on the Thanksgiving buffet. Do you have a question? Now, I also like to cover the parchment with one of our flour sack towels, and it's ready to go into the basket. These are great for transporting, and they have leather handles, they're sturdy, and put a pretty decorative towel in the bottom, unfold it like that, and put 2 pot holders in the bottom if your pilaf is still very hot, and put it in the basket. You don't want it moving around while you're driving, so take 2 more towels and tuck them on either side so that the casserole doesn't move back and forth. Cover it over with a towel. Oh, by the way, you still have your herbs to put on the top, and just tuck that in the side. And here is your pilaf. ready for transport. This other basket will do for the lovely gratin. And now the 20 minutes are up. I can now put the gratin topping on our lovely casserole. Oh, it looks so good. And sprinkle your cheese and breadcrumb mixture all over the top. This goes back in just for 15 minutes. Reduce the heat to 375. And here we have a finished gratin. If you're going to transport this, don't put the crumbs or the cheese on top until you get them to the hostess's kitchen safely. And then sprinkle on the crumbs and the cheese and the herbs and bake it at her house. Happy Thanksgiving.
Wednesday on...
These are a sheep nose. Notice their elongated shape, very shiny red skin, and a lovely flesh. Just wave it off and take a bite. You can hear the crunch. They're really good. Well, I have more than enough for the stuffing for the turkeys. Now to make it. This morning we're making stuffing for the turkey. Today is a brown Basmati rice stuffing. Basmati rice originated in India, and now it's grown in California and in Texas. It's a long grain, crunchy, very, very flavorful rice. There's two different kinds of rice. Did you know? There's the Indian style, which is this Basmati rice, which comes in white or brown. And that is long grained, and it's when it's cooked, it's dry and flaky. And there's also the Japanese style of rice, which is short grain and sticky and kind of sweet when it's cooked. The process of making this brown rice stuffing is quite simple. Just follow the steps one by one. Into a large frying pan or saute pan, add about 1 tablespoon of good olive oil, 4 cloves of garlic that are finely chopped. Cook this just a second or two before you add 5 large white onions. Adjust the heat so you don't burn your onions. You don't want these things to brown. You want them to get translucent, which means kind of transparent. As these are cooking, put another like a half a teaspoon of oil in a non-stick pan. This is to saute the shiitake mushrooms. This is a half a pound of those delicious shiitake mushrooms, just sliced crosswise. Put those in the pan and cook them over a medium-high heat. These are just starting to soften, and pretty soon we can add the celery. Use about 10 stalks of celery with the leaves on top. The leaves are actually more flavorful than the stalks. Wash the stalks very well and chop up quite fine. You can add a little bit of sherry now, a nice dry sherry, to, I'd say, just about 1/4 of a cup, and let that cook down with the mushrooms. You can add these right to the celery. Now, in this same pan, without adding anything else, add about 4 apples that have been peeled, cored, and cut up into chunks. And let these two just cook until they just start to soften. I like the crunchiness of apples in the stuffing, so I don't want to cook them too soft. And now we have a couple other things to put in, and we can do that over here. In this nice big mixing bowl, you can put your rice. Remember, 1 pound of Basmati rice that's been cooked with a bay leaf and chicken or turkey stock. Nice and fluffy and singular grains. That's Indian rice. Breadcrumbs, about 2 cups of a flavorful bread. You can use a sourdough bread. You can just grind them up in the Cuisinart. And now, once the breadcrumbs are completely incorporated into the rice, add all these delicious cooked fruits and vegetables. Smells so good. You can smell a little bit of the garlic, a little bit of those mushrooms. Stir this around, and now add all your herbs. This is parsley, sage, a little bit of tarragon, a little bit of marjoram. Whatever you like, you can add into this stuffing. And now add your salt and pepper. Probably a couple teaspoons of salt will do. Come back after these messages and we'll be picking herbs and stuffing the turkey. Sage is one of those wonderful herbs that likes the winter over here in Connecticut. And sage is also one of the most decorative herbs to use underneath the skin of the turkey. Along with bay leaves, this nice, tough, leathery leaf makes a very pretty design once the turkey is all roasted. I'll show you how. Here's our 18-pound fresh-killed turkey. Unwrap it when you get it home from the store. Don't leave it in this plastic bag. And this should be picked up the day before Thanksgiving. You can order your turkey in advance so that you're assured that there'll be a fresh turkey waiting for you. Doesn't this look good? Nice and plump. Now take out the things that are in the inside of the turkey. Here's the neck. This is everything that's going to go from the inside of the turkey into the stock pot. This is the neck. And then usually in the neck cavity, this is the neck cavity. Here, take out this paper bag, which has the gizzards in it. Don't be squeamish. These are traditional turkey fixings. All of this can go right into the stock pot. Now this is an 18-pound bird, actually a little bit more than 18 pounds. When you lift it up, you don't want to tear the skin or break any of the bones. So pick it up, put your hand right here in the cavity and hold underneath and take it to the sink and rinse it out. There's the turkey, nice and clean. You can dry it off a little bit. I don't know where I got the idea in the first place to put herbs underneath the skin, but it makes a very nice pattern and it also flavors the meat of the turkey very nicely. So with your fingertips, loosen the skin of the breast and of the drumsticks. Be very careful not to tear it. If you've bought a frozen turkey, and most of the turkeys in America have been flash frozen, be very conscious of a certain number of points. First of all, look for a nice, well-packed turkey. Don't buy a turkey that's in a package that's been torn. Also look for freezer burn. You don't want a turkey that looks like the skin has dried out in any part because it will have assumed maybe the flavors or something from the freezer. Okay, the skin is totally loose all the way up through the drumstick. So now I can start inserting the leaves. I think I'm going to use bay leaves. They're very flavorful and they will show nicely under the skin. So take the leaves and create some sort of mosaic pattern. And I think I'm going to put a couple sage leaves under there too. See how pretty this gray sage is. This mosaic will look beautiful and remember, flavor the turkey very nicely. Now we're ready to stuff the bird. Remember, this should be done on Thanksgiving morning. I take a little bit of the coarse salt and I just rub it on the inside of the cavity. And then here is our delicious brown rice stuffing. Start with this cavity first and pack it in, but not real tightly. Remember, the stuffing should be at room temperature or colder. Don't put hot stuffing inside the turkey. And then don't forget the neck cavity. Same thing. Put a lot of stuffing in there, but not too much to make a great big unsightly bulge. Okay, so tuck under the neck skin. And then here is what you do with these wings that are sticking out. You can leave them sticking out like this and they'll come out all bony and unsightly. It's pretty easy just to force these wing tips underneath the neck skin. And that holds it. You don't have to sew it. You don't have to truss it. Now it's ready to put in the preheated oven. The oven's been preheated to 400 degrees. I put it in there just because this is cold. So I put it in a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes just to bring it up to temperature. Then I reduce the heat to 350 or 325 and roast it until it registers 165 degrees on the thermometer. It's looking excellent. Oh, wow. And it looks absolutely succulent and juicy. It's getting a nice color, too. During the roasting, I take the turkey out every half hour or so to check the temperature and give it a little basting. I baste the turkey with a little bit of melted butter, no more than a half a stick. And it's not going into the stuffing or under the skin. It's only staying on the outside. And I think it gets the turkey looking really beautiful, picture perfect. Looks good. And check the temperature. These little instant thermometers that come in a little case like this are terrific. And turkey should be 165 in the thickest part of the meat when it's done. We're up to 150 degrees. So it will be done, the turkey will be done at 165 degrees. That's probably only about a half an hour away. Notice we've covered it with a little bit of aluminum foil just to prevent the skin from getting too dark or too dried out. You can remove the foil. Oh boy, does this look great. Looks like the perfect Thanksgiving bird. Let's test it. Look at that. It's absolutely 165 degrees in the center of the turkey. That's way down inside the stuffing. So I would say that this turkey is done. Notice the nice mosaic design of the fresh herbs. It looks crispy. The skin feels good. Let it sit in the roasting pan for about 20 minutes before you carve it. It's very important to let the juices just settle in the meat. If you start carving it while it's really hot, the juices will run out all over the place. Let it stay like this. Remove it, then remove it onto your serving platter and use all the drippings in the pan to create your gravy. We'll be right back. That isn't lumpy or floury. These are the drippings from the turkey, right in the original pan in which it was roasted. To these drippings, add some boiling hot stock. This is the turkey stock. This was being made while the turkey was roasting. Add just enough to thin out the juices. Turn the heat to high and let it boil, scraping off all the drippings. Now, I saved this little jar. This is a little mustard jar with its top. And into this jar, add about 3 tablespoons of flour. This is just regular all-purpose flour. And add some cold water, about 3/4 way up the jar, and shake. My mother had one of these contraptions made out of metal. It was her little gravy shaker. And this prevents any flour lumps in your sauce. Pour this right into the boiling liquid and stir. If you just add flour to this mixture, the starch in the flour will just coagulate and form lots of lumps. So keep stirring, boiling all the while until it reaches the desired thickness. I don't like a real thick gravy. Looks good. Taste it for salt and pepper. Doesn't need anything. If your stock is well flavored and your drippings are good, you don't need to really do too much to make a delicious sauce. And now, just pour it through a strainer into a bowl. And it's ready for the turkey. It's a good rich color. Look how dark brown. It has delicious flavor. It's a good thing. Remember how big and bare the barn looked when I was planning this party? Well, now I think it's really beautiful. And the way it's set up really works. My family and my friends can serve themselves from the long buffet. I want my guests to feel comfortable. It's friendly and informal. I've set the tables informally, too, with a mixture of old and new. I like my green and pink depression glasses, and my ever-growing collection of glass and china turkeys look really special with all the rest of the table decorations. George, my brother, is always the most popular guest at Thanksgiving time because he's the one who knows how to carve the turkey.
I don't know whether that's a blessing or is it ill fate.
I think you're great. So would you show us how to carve a turkey correctly? A lot of people really don't know how.
The first thing you need, Martha, is a very sharp knife, and if you look at the edge of the knife and if you see any reflections, that means it might be dull. So you want to take the steel and use the knife and push it on the steel until it gets to be nice and clean so you can't see any edge. So then the first thing you want to do is to take a leg and slice through it. And this will be your dark meat. You can see it's very nice and juicy. And with that, you can just slice the meat right off of it and put it on the platter next to the bird. And you can see all of the beautiful herbs that you've placed under the skin. You just take it and start peeling down. And there you go.
Great, this
Isn't that
turkey.
beautiful?
Oh, wow.
So you just make a slight cut.
You can still get big pieces,
You can still get big pieces, but the meat ends, and you can lift it up without having it flake off on you.
Let's sit down and eat with the rest of them. Looks good, and the stuffing looks great.
Delicious.
Thanksgiving has always been one of my favorite holidays. I spend so much of the year cooking and eating and decorating with the fruits from my garden. It seems so right to give thanks for our harvest. I give thanks for the company of my friends and family too, and at Thanksgiving time I gather everyone around me. You too have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Fruits and vegetables that are seasonal